Barbara J. Hart.
Before 2002, we were almost normal. We owned a nice house, we were nice neighbors, we raised a son and 2 dogs, sailed a 26-foot boat, did all the things that normal people do. We were also feeling the aftermath, the emotional aftermath of 9/11, and we lost 3 family members to cancer that year. So we talked a lot about our future. When Stu had proposed to me in 1985, he said, "Before you answer, you need to know that someday I want to have a sailboat and sail around the world." 18 years later, I knew that changing our life would somehow involve a blue water sailboat. So we looked at a 47-foot Choi Lee cutter on January 19th. By March 25th, we had vacated and closed on the house, and we bought La Luna on April Fool's Day, really, yeah. On May 19th, we moved aboard, and we could no longer be considered normal by any stretch of the imagination. Just so you know, I was the one who said, "Let's sell the house and move aboard a boat." And over the next 3 weeks, while we were planning this process, Stu detailed every possible challenge of living aboard in Maine. I didn't think he was excited at all. It drove me crazy. And basically, he played me like a fiddle and I could never say, "I didn't know that was going to happen." So we moved aboard. This is an alternative lifestyle. When I told a couple recently that we lived aboard for 8 years year-round in Maine, the husband said, "Where do you go in the winter?" I said, "South Portland." He said, "So do you have a house there or do you rent?" His wife said, "She lives aboard." He said, "In the winter, in Maine?" His wife said, "That's what year-round means, David." Wintering aboard is a challenge, but snow doesn't bother us, nor does terribly high water. My sister called once to warn us of a flood tide, and I said, "You know, Pat, we live on a boat. Flooding isn't our issue." That's our issue. Our issue is 30 or more knots of wind from the northeast, a high tide, the waves roll into the marina, the docks ride the waves, frigid seawater freezes on the docks and lines, the boat is pushed away from the pier and sprung back side to side, while rocking from bow to stern up and down with every wave. It's a lot of fun. We call those dog storms. We stay with the boat, but take the dog, the guitar, and the computer up to the cars. The universe tested our resolve the first year aboard when we had 5 dog storms. The damage to the cover here occurred this year on the February 25th storm when we had over 60 knots of wind sustained. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. The first few years we hired someone to shrink wrap the boat, and when that was not an option, EW and the guys would shrink wrap the boats and I made chili. And then somehow shrink wrapping became a non-gender event and we all shrink wrapped together, helping the newbies build the frame and put the plastic on and use the heat gun. Now, folks with homes sometimes insulate their windows with the plastic and you use a hairdryer. Shrink wrapping a boat is that process on steroids. The plastic is much thicker, and instead of a hairdryer, you use a heat gun fueled by propane that spurts a flame. It's a kick. The cover helps keep the boat warm, and we don't have to shovel snow off the decks. We've been interviewed by a number of local reporters who wonder why we live like that. One spelled our name H-E-A-R-T, and I got really upset, so I was really insistent when the next one called and said, "Now, my husband Stu is an E.W. Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T, Hart, and he's been known as E.W. ever since." The question people most often ask is, "What do you do with your stuff?" And the answer is you get rid of a lot of it. We have a few boxes in storage. We get rid of more each year. When a new pair of shoes come on board, an old pair go off. Things matter less, but that was our trunk, and you can tell the liveaboard's car by how the trunk looks. Some folks have so much clutter on board they can't sail. We have a 15-minute rule during sailing season. The 2 of us can get the boat ready to leave the slip in 15 minutes. We bought her to sail, and we sail her as far away as Nova Scotia at this point. Both EW and the boat are happiest at 20 knots of wind and a beam reach. And when we get near Portland Harbor, he likes to tighten the sails and beat into the Green Island Passage, threading the needle between the red and green buoys. Sailors who live aboard, sail. So what type of people live aboard? That's my favorite photo. All kinds. Folks who buy a boat instead of renting an apartment, people who leave bare footprints on frosty docks, and folks like us who live aboard while preparing to sail around the world. We've had some great neighbors. Some have sold their boats and moved back ashore. Others left Maine to live aboard down south. Still others have cut the dock lines and sailed around the world. We helped one couple take their boat through the Panama Canal. Prior to that, EW had helped them cross the Atlantic from the Canaries to Antigua. During that trip, I stayed home with the dog in December. No, I am not bitter. Really, not really. Okay, so you remember, this is key. Remember that marriage proposal 25 years ago? Well, the time has come. EW wants to sail into Antigua as the captain of his own boat. This October, we are leaving Maine to begin our cruise around the world. Yeah, I know. Is that a kick? I can't tell you. There have been clues. I'm going to have breakfast. I'll tell you, that's it. I'm just going to have breakfast at all the beautiful harbors on the deck of my boat. I'm going to see palm trees instead of pine trees, and that's what I'm doing right now, is getting ready for that. There have been clues. We did not announce our plans until the end of June, but we are leaving. We will miss family and friends and special occasions with them. We'll stay in touch via my blog and email. We're simplifying even more. Our priorities have changed. We're going to sail the world together. You can follow us at hartsatsea.com. That's HARTSATSEA.com. We're going to spend a few years touring the Atlantic side and eventually go through the Panama Canal and spend a few more years in the Pacific. We may take 8 or 10 years or more. We're going to sail aboard. We're going to still live aboard, but we're going to live aboard all around the world. And I guess there is creativity in living life the way you want.